In three, two, one, we going live. I would like to apologize for any inconvenience. I ran into a little bit of technical difficulties, but I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your patience. What I'll be doing today is actually doing a book reading. I'll be doing a book reading from the book 100 Years, A Journey to End a Vicious Cycle. So I just want to give like a minute to allow people to get a chance to get into the room. I thank you for your patience. As I said, I ran into a little bit of technical difficulties this morning on this live stream. But as I say, man, I thank you for your support. Those who purchased the book, those who read the book, those who left ratings on Amazon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The passage that I will be reading from today will be pages 17. Let me say this. It'll be chapter 1, page 17 to page 23. I'll be reading page 17 to page 23. And part of this is telling the story about when I actually met my real mother, my biological mother. As I say, we're going to wait a minute, let people get into the room. If not, I'm going to go ahead with the reading, whether somebody's in the room or not. Let me go ahead and send a welcome out to everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As I say, we'll be reading from the book 100 Years, A Journey to End a Vicious Cycle. Man, this book is a true story about my life and also included with my family's life and how we collectively wasted 100 years in prison due to our bad decisions. We're not blaming anybody. And I kind of go through my childhood on up. So listen, if you have the book, man, go ahead and share it in the comments section. Take a selfie of yourself with the book. It can be an old book. It can be a new book. But like I said, I thank y'all for the support. The book is also available on Amazon on paperback, as you just saw, but it's also available in e-book. So with no further ado, I'll be reading the book 100 Years, A Journey to End a Vicious Cycle. And I am the author, Mark L. Boehner. We'll be reading from chapter 1. I would like to direct your attention to page 17, where I will be starting my reading, page 17. And I'm at the very top. And it reads, from my earliest memory, I thought that my stepmother was my biological mother. I'm using the nouns of stepmother and biological mother in this memoir for the purpose of differentiation. I greatly appreciate the job they both did in acting as a mother figure in my life, and I hold them both in high esteem. During the time that I lived with my stepmother, she raised me as her own son, and I have nothing but admiration for her. On this particular day, we arrived in Delaware at a house that I was not familiar with. Later, I learned that this house belonged to my grandmother on my mother's side of the family. Everyone was really nice to me, and I received the normal compliments of, "You got so big." There was a lot of people there that I had not known, that I did not know, but I managed to find other children to play with while the adults conversed throughout the house. My memory of everything that happened that particular day is a bit unclear, but I distinctly remember being called into the living room at some point. There was a lady I had never seen before sitting quietly off to one side as I entered the room and sat down. There were several other women standing around the room or sitting on various pieces of furniture. Then one particular woman stood up, looked at me, and said, "This is not your mother," as she pointed at my stepmother. This visibly shook me. Life as I knew it had changed. I had believed that my stepmother was my mother, and now I was being told differently. The woman then pointed to the lady who was sitting quietly and said to me, "This lady here is your real mother." At that point, I was very surprised and kind of confused. I did not know what to think or even how to feel. She then asked me, "Who do you want to live with?" I'm on page 18. Don't ask me why, but I pointed to the quiet lady, and I guess being told that she was my real mother and what made me want to live with her, to get to know her. I don't know why I made the decision that I did, or even why I was asked. I was only 5 years old, and these were things that adults handled, not children. I do know, however, that I am very glad that I made the decision that I made. Later, I learned the rest of the story. According to my mother and other relatives, my dad wasn't happy about the whole situation because he felt that they had taken me from him. He fervently expressed his disagreement to them, but later gave in to my wish. My mother was such a nice lady, and later that day we walked several blocks to where she lived. Page 19. I met my brother and sisters that day, and my mother showed me pictures of us being together before I went to live with my dad. I got along really well with my brother and sisters. I was actually I was accepted by them, and we had a lot of fun together. I came to know a very loving and caring woman who put her family before herself. A woman that is my biological, a woman that is my biological mother. She taught me much about life. I learned a lot of good things and useful information from my mother, and I watched her exemplify what a good woman really is. She was not perfect, and she faced a number of challenges throughout her life. But throughout it all, she stood strong and worked hard. Many times she put her life on hold in order to take care of her 5 children. She was a very hard worker and came home tired almost every night, only to wake up the very next day ready to do it all again. I had the same respect for my biological mother that I had for my stepmother. And years later, I still have a very good relationship with both of them. It felt good to reconnect with my mother, even though I did not remember her from birth. My brother was 1 year older than myself. And my mother told my brother to take me with him when he went places. Page 20. Sometimes he would go to the park to play. Sometimes we would go other places together where we would play and have fun. Sometimes, however, he did not want to be bothered with me, and he would run away and leave me on my own. My older brother remembered when we used to live together previously, and he told me plenty of stories. I enjoyed hearing these stories and was eager to make a connection with the life that I had before going to live with my dad. We began making new memories each day. My mother was very instrumental in encouraging us to do things together and with her. I learned nursery school songs, word games, start with a word and continue until you run out of words that rhyme with it. And the name song, where you rhyme your name and others rhyme your name with other words. My mother was very active in our lives, and she spoke to us about a lot of different things, frequently checking to see that we were all right. My mother was happy to have me back with her and was hesitant to allow me to visit my dad's. She feared that he would not send me back after my visit and declared that she would not allow that to happen. Page 21. Despite the fact that my dad was initially unhappy concerning the situation that led me living in Delaware with my mother, he decided to reach out to her in an effort to convince her to allow me to visit him. He said that he would send me back, but my mother denied his request with a simple no. For a few years, he let the issue alone before asking if I could come and stay with him during the summertime or during the Christmas holidays. My mother remained hesitant, but ultimately, my uncle, Mokeem, was very instrumental in convincing my mother to allow me to visit my dad. He vowed to my mother that he would ensure my safe return to her if she would allow me to visit my dad's. My uncle saw the importance of maintaining a relationship with both my parents. My uncle Mokeem is my dad's brother, and he drove me down to Alabama to visit my dad and other family from the South. I enjoyed living with my mom, but I really did want to see my dad again. Read that again. I enjoyed living with my mom, but I really did want to see my dad again. I had a lot of good memories of when I lived with my dad, even if he was a very strict disciplinarian. I always got in trouble whenever we got home from work. Always got into trouble whenever he got home from work. Once he even punished me for having difficulty learning how to spell my last name, but I still wanted to see him. This is page 22. Page 22. My dad lived in Montgomery, Alabama, the capital city. At the time, I did not realize or appreciate the rich history that existed or the significant role Montgomery played in the civil rights movement. During the 1960s, the famous year-long bus boycott took place. Martin Luther King Jr., pastored one of the local churches, and it was the destination of the famous march from Selma. During the 1970s, there was a low-key element of criminal activity. When we started our drive south, I attempted to stay awoke as long as I could, but soon fell asleep. It seemed to take forever. I must have asked my uncle countless times, "Are we there yet?" Every time he stopped for gas, I woke up thinking that we might have gotten to Alabama. When we finally arrived at my dad's house, I was embraced and accepted by everyone. And I was just as excited to see them as they were to see me. My dad took me to visit a lot of other family members who lived nearby. Some of them I did not remember. Let's read that again. Some of them I did not remember. And often I will be asked the question, "Do you remember so and so?" I was reunited with my brother and sisters on my dad's side of my family. And we had a lot to talk about and many things to catch up on. This is page 23. I'm now on page 23, the top of the page. My stepmother appeared to be very happy to see me also, and my dad gave her the money to take me shopping for clothes. I just read from the book 100 Years, A Journey to End a Vicious Cycle. I read the passage, chapter 1, pages 17 through pages 23. In this passage that I read, I kind of went over how I was living with my dad and my stepmother. My dad was in the military, so he traveled around a lot. We was in different places. We was in Spain. I remember being in a class in Spain. So for some reason, we came to Delaware, which I thought was a visit. I didn't know anybody there. And there was a lady sitting there quietly. And then eventually somebody came in the room and they called me back into the room because I was out playing with some of the other kids there. So they called me into the room, and one of the ladies pointed to my stepmom, who I thought was my real mom, and said, "That's not your mom." And they pointed to the quiet lady and said, "That's your real mom." So as a child, at the time, I'm 5 years old. That was a major shock for me. I didn't understand it. I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. Is it true? So shortly after they said that, I'm still digesting the fact that they saying, "That's not my mom." That was the mom that I knew in my mind. I thought that was my mom. That's my dad, his wife, that's my mom. Well, shortly after they gave me that information, I'm still trying to chew on that. They followed up with, after telling me that my stepmom is not my mom, that this quiet lady was my real mom, I'm trying to process and understand that. The same lady followed up with the question, "Who do you want to live with?" I'm a child, and y'all put me in this major situation to make this decision. And I pointed to the quiet lady who they said was my real mom. At that time, I'm 5 years old. I'm not thinking about offending anybody. That's not what's on my mind. But they telling me this is my mom. And I guess in my mind at that time, I want to know this lady. If this is really my mom, yes, I want to live with her. Even though I had my dad and my mom, my stepmom there. But they telling me now, this is my real mom. Who do you want to live with? The quiet lady, my real mom. I want to get to know. I got all these questions in my mind. And I remember once we finally left, we had to walk several blocks to where she actually lived, because that house that we went to, it turned out to be my grandma or my mom's mom. So my grandma on my mother's side of the family. But we had to walk several blocks. And that was on the west side, Hilltop area in Wilmington, Delaware. And we walked several blocks to get to my mom's actual house. I had all kind of questions. Would she be nice? Would she be mean? All kind of questions. And then when we got there, I had one brother and I had two sisters at the time. So it was four of us, but eventually we had another sister. So ended up being five of us. And that was the story. No, but what happened was, after I was with my mom, my dad called to get me to come visit him. He wanted me to visit. And my mom was, I guess, terrified that my dad would not, send me back if I was to go to visit. So she shut it down on, the first time he asked, "You're not going down there. They're not going to keep you and kidnap you and this and that, and you're not going." And, when I heard that he wanted me to come and visit him, I was happy. Which child wouldn't be happy to want to see their dad and, go visit the family? But my mom shut it down. No, no, no. That was her stance. And I can understand it now, because I guess the love as a mom, she want to have her child. And she don't want to just give him away. So she was like, no. But, my dad had a brother who actually had lived in Delaware. He had moved to Delaware to get one of them jobs. So he had got one of them factory jobs. He was in, Chrysler. So my dad had a brother working in Chrysler, and because of that, he lived in Delaware and stayed in Delaware. And that's where he had worked for all the years. Even when I was young, growing up, he was still at Chrysler. But he would visit, Alabama often. So my dad came again and tried to, request, hey, get him to come down. And he would always ask, like during summer times, Christmas times. And it took a minute for my mom to loosen up, but my uncle was an advocate. In a book, he's listed as Mokeem. My uncle Mokeem was an advocate. He came over. I remember he came over and they had their discussion. I don't think he convinced her the first time, but he told her, listen, if you let me take him down to Alabama to meet his dad, I'm going to guarantee you that I'm going to bring him back safe and sound. And I can't remember, I don't think it happened immediately, but he was persistent and he continued to ask. And my mom eventually gave in. And I guess she gave my uncle the third degree. If I send him, you better do it. You better bring him back. I can imagine my mom probably that might have been the exchange. I don't know. I wasn't privy to that information, but I know that he was active and he came over several times, to advocate for me to go visit my dad in Alabama. And he said, I'm gonna take him personally. I'm gonna bring him back personally. And by him doing that, we went to visit my dad, and I remember going with him and driving down there. And as we drive, it's a long time, but as a child, you really don't, you really can't think about the time. Like you don't, I'm gonna say I didn't understand the time and how long it would take. So every time we would stop, oh, are we close? We there? It was like 16, 17-hour drive, depends on, how fast you going. If you speeding, it can be shorter. If you speed all the way, they say they can get there in 12, 13, 14 hours. So we did that, went visit my dad again, and that was a blessing. I was happy to see him. He was happy to see me. And that started the process. Once I went that time, that started the process of me, rekindling the relationship with my dad and also with my stepmom. She was happy to see me. And at that time, I saw my brother and my sister, and they eventually had another. We had a younger sister who became, so it was four of us down there. When I go home with my mom, it was five of us at the time. So, when I visited, one thing I did like when I went back, my dad had good furniture, nice stuff, a nice house. And he gave my stepmom money and she took me shopping. I had some clothes. So when I went back to Delaware, I had a few new items. But that's the story of, when I met my real mother. It was a blessing. I'm glad that I did meet my mother. I'm glad that I met her and that, you know, I was able to enjoy and appreciate and get to know that part of my life because that part of my life is important as well. And like I said, that started a process of me going all the time. So I was able to have a relationship on my mom's side of the family and a relationship with my dad on my dad's side of the family. Listen, man, I want to open it up for question and answering. I want to open it up for Q&A. Uh, my question to you, says you don't have any questions. My question to you, also don't, as part of the Q&A, if you want to ask a question on a recording, if you see this later, put it in the comments section and I'll do my best to answer your question in the comments section. But listen, my question is, do you have the book, or most importantly, have you read the book, 100 Years, A Journey to End a Vicious Cycle? That's my question. Let me know if you have the book or if you read the book. Let me type this. The next one is, as I told y'all, the book is available on Amazon, is available in paperback, and it's also available in ebook. So my next question is, do you plan on purchasing the book? I want to thank you to anybody, man, who read the book, supported the book, purchased the book. Man, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. Also would like to thank you, man, for watching the video. Thank you. I thank you for any support, man. I thank you. I thank you. You can find me on my YouTube channel at Mark 100 Years. You can find me on Instagram at Mark 100 Years. And I'm also on TikTok, Mark 100B. I believe. Let me double check my TikTok. Let me check my TikTok. Let me check it, check it, check it, check it, check it. Yes, that's correct. My TikTok is Mark 100B. So you can follow me at those on any of those social outlets. I'm on Twitter at Mark 100 Years as well. And I thank y'all for the support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope that you found value in this video. And if so, I ask that you subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can be notified anytime I make a video. Man, I appreciate it. I'm so humble. I appreciate all the support that I've been given, that I've been shown. I'm very thankful, man. Very thankful. I don't take none of this for granted. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And until next time, man, y'all be safe out there. Peace.